day. So I hope we're all doing well. My name is Forever, and I work as the enrollment advisor at Student. I also work with the marketing team. Thank you again, everyone, for joining this session. We are super glad to have you here. So basically, the purpose of this session is just to, have you understand the importance of having a good portfolio. We believe that this session will be of great importance to you, especially in the tech labor market. So now our host for today is Hakeeb Bashorun. He's a user experience manager at Almosefa. And fun fact, he graduated from the first cohort, that is cohort 0.1 of the Student Graduate Accelerator program. So if you ask me, I think he is the perfect person to handle this session today. Yes, so enough from me. Hi, Hakeeb. I think you can take it from here. The floor is yours.
Cool. I was just about to text you, like I was not able to unmute myself. Thank you so much, Forever. It is amazing to be here. So many names. But yeah, hi everyone. First off, thank you so much for having me. I am very much excited to be here. I would spend some time obviously talking about portfolios. I think, like Forever mentioned, like, portfolios are extremely important. Like, they form such a crucial part of what we do as designers, and the hope is to spend some time today, talking about portfolios. I'm going to share my screen, and we essentially can dive in. There's obviously going to be a lot we'll talk about portfolios, do some live portfolio reviews together, and obviously I'd love to get questions from folks as well. So yeah, let's dive in really. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I think we can kick off. Just to confirm, I do hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can keep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I titled this entire session "Demystifying Portfolios" because I remember very clearly going through SGA 0.1. Portfolios was, this word I had a lot, and it felt a bit scary. I don't think I would use scary the word, but it just felt like, this thing that was elusive, that was pretty hard to nail. And on some level it is, but the intent with today's session is to spend some time trying to make it a little less scary. And that's why I've titled my presentation, Demystifying Portfolios. Yeah, just to share a bit about me, I am very much Nigerian. I studied engineering, and it was there I started to dabble with tech. I was writing some code, essentially just playing around. And after graduating, I participated in Student 0.1, very first cohort. And it was a great experience. I am a big fan of what the Student folks are up to. I think creating a platform for folks to transition to tech and kick off new careers is an incredibly hard thing to pull off. And I feel like they have done a great job so far. So yeah, I am a fan, but an alumni as well. I spent some time working at Cowrywise, a fintech based in Lagos. And I moved to Dubai in 2019, where I worked with Bayzat. So Bayzat essentially was a software as a service company. We're building HR and insurance tech products for SMEs in the region. After that, I did some work with two early stage startups, one in the UK and in the US, where I was working on both product and design. After doing that for like a year, I transitioned to Almusafir. It's a digital travel product business, and I currently manage and design for the hotels team. And so I'm focused really on crafting the best experience for customers to book their hotels online. So this is me in a nutshell. I think if there's anything you can take away, is the fact that I've had to use portfolios a lot, whether it's when I was applying to Cowrywise or switching to Bayzat or even switching to Almusafir. So I think I know a thing or two, not everything, but I do hope I'm able to share a thing or two, at least that I've learned from my experience. For today's session, I hope to cover three things. So obviously there will be a presentation, and I would talk about portfolios, why they're important, all that stuff. Hope to spend about 20, 25 minutes doing that. We would, then go into a live portfolio review together. I have picked out a few portfolios, just, go over that together. And then spend some time taking questions from everyone on the call and, answering them. So without, further ado, let's just dive in. For today's portfolio presentation, I would spend some time talking about what portfolios really and why they exist. Some unfortunate but very hard truths about portfolios, what goes into building a portfolio, and some tips. I don't think this is all there is to know about portfolios in general, but I hope by covering all of these, I'm able to give you something that allows you to kick off that journey of creating an amazing portfolio. So before I dive into the presentation, I'm sure we've all heard about portfolios at some point in the past. And so I have two reflection questions, and I want everyone to share their thoughts in the chat. First one is, when you think of portfolios, what one or two words come to mind? Just dump stuff in the chat, and in one or two sentences, describe the job you're trying to do with a portfolio. I would love to hear from as many people as possible. I will be calling out things I find interesting. So guys, please, share a thing or two in the chat. Let's just, do that as a way to reflect before we, dive into the session itself. Okay, professional. That's a good one. Displaying ability, standing out. Yeah. Resume, but make it professional. I mean, you should continue on the projects you've done. That's a good way to think about it. Project bank, where you get to showcase your works and skills, past work, you're trying to get hired. Branding, work compilation. Portfolio equals to work history visually represented. I think there are a number of things I agree with. Showmanship, getting employers' attention and work. So these are very, very spot on. I think on a number of levels, these encapsulate what portfolios are supposed to help achieve. So I feel like, we all have a sense of what they are, but I do hope to, make things a bit more concrete so you can, better hit the nail on the head. So thanks everyone for sharing, really, really appreciate it. A definition of portfolio that I really, really like is one where you think of your portfolio as a collection of your best work. And it's not supposed to just be a collection because you're trying to collect stuff. It's a collection of your best work because you want to use it as a way to showcase your skills, experience, and design aesthetic. Now, design aesthetic is important, obviously, because we are all designers, and on a number of levels, you're supposed to have, our style. But if you're, for example, doing user experience design and you were not necessarily focused on the visual part, design aesthetic might not be as relevant. But I think a few things hold true when you think of portfolios in general. It's a collection of your best work, an emphasis on best work here, and it's a way to showcase your skills, experience, and design aesthetic. And when I think of why portfolios exist, the crucial thing to remember is a portfolio exists to show instead of tell. I would use a sports metaphor to drive home the point. So, imagine you're a talented young footballer looking to go pro and start playing for a football club. So you hear about this football club that's taking in young talent. They have a scout and they have an application. You can reach out to the scout and send in your application. So you're sending an application. In that application, it's a 200-page letter where you write about why you're a footballer. You talk about the fact that you can run, you can defend, you're able to juggle the ball, you're a great scorer. And yes, that does communicate the fact that you can play football, but what will do a better job a 2-minute recording of you playing football. It could be a live football match. It could be you doing drill. But by just showing them a video, you've done a much better job at communicating the fact that you're a great footballer, better than any sort of 100, 200 word letter can do. And that's how you need to think about your portfolios. When we think of the tell bucket, think of like your CV, your cover letter, your certificates. You're telling employers, you're telling people that you have certain skills, but with your portfolio, you're trying to show it. And so it's not doing the same job as your CV, cover letter, certificates. It's doing a slightly different job to show that you have certain skills. And so when someone, for example, receives an application and sees a CV, yes, they get a sense of the skills you have, but they then look at your portfolio and are able to really grok that this person actually has the skills and this is evidence of that. So if there's anything you're taking away, just remember, okay, my portfolio I'm trying to show instead of tell. And sadly but truly, there are some sort of hard facts about portfolios. The first one really is a portfolio is a reflection of your work. And if you don't do great work, you just will not have a great portfolio. I don't think I can remember personally a time I've gone to a portfolio, I was like, this is amazing. But I felt like the work in the work showcased in the portfolios were shit. So obviously some of you have graduated from Street End. Some people are probably still going through the program right now. But the best thing you can do really is ensure you're doing amazing work. And I know this is something you've probably heard a lot. And so it sounds like noise, or it sounds like a line from a song that's popular, but it's actually very true. The best work you can do for your portfolio is to do really, really good work. The next thing really is a portfolio takes longer than you think. I have worked on portfolios for 2 days and I spent months working on a portfolio. And while the portfolio I worked on for 2 days came in handy and was useful, I'm honest to state that the portfolio could have been better. And so when we think of our portfolios, I feel like we should, realize that it's going to take some time and approach it from that perspective. I know, people are looking for jobs, looking to find the next best thing. And, we all want the next best thing now, but it's important to internalize, okay, this is going to take some time. Let me give you the time it requires. We tend to treat portfolios as an afterthought. I know very much that I do. I think of it as something I'll come to when I want to apply for a job. And it's fine, but if you probably, did less of that, you are already ahead of the curve. I have a few friends who I know that update their portfolios on a regular basis, even when they're not applying for jobs. And you know who's usually in the best position when an opportunity comes their way? These folks, because they already have their portfolios nicely tidied up. The other piece is your portfolio is a product on some level, and you need to think of it as something that's always work in progress. I make changes to my portfolios, on a semi-regular basis. Maybe there's this piece of information I want to add in, or there's this stuff I just work on I want to add in. I always try to build on a regular basis. It also makes the entire practice of revamping your product overwhelming. And so when you make portfolio decisions as well, think about it from that perspective. Okay, can I design something or build a portfolio that becomes very easy for me to update? I'll go into tools a little bit, and I think this point will come in handy a bit more when we get there. But these are some hard truths about portfolios. Probably stuff we already know, but nobody really realizes, also internalizes. So if you can do something, understand this, and I feel like you generally approach portfolios in a very different way. So I've given you a bit of preamble about portfolios, talk for a bit. Now let's go into building an actual portfolio. I have seen a ton of portfolios, I'm sure a lot of us have. And you'll see a bunch of things. You see, crazy motion design, you see typography, you see visual design skills, you see all types of styles. But if you abstract away from all of that and you focused on what is at the core of a portfolio, I think there are 3 things. Actually, 2 things. Some people will say it's just about you, your work and your projects. But I think your writings and talks are also a crucial part of your portfolio. I know people struggle to write, I do as well. But these are the 3 pieces I find to be super crucial for portfolios. About you, obviously, is talking about yourself and your story. Your work and projects, we can think of these as case studies. Your writings and talks, unlike projects, they're also a way for you to show that you have specific skills. So I will dive into each of them a bit. And when we do the live portfolio review, we would also sort of showcase examples of these in action. The about you piece, I think, is one that's important, but we tend to treat as the last item because obviously people want to see your projects. Yes, it's a given. Employers want to see your projects, but they also want to sort of know your story. If I saw two CVs and these two folks graduated from the University of Lagos in 2016, and one person studied industrial engineering, the other person studied industrial engineering, regardless of who these individuals are, they feel like the same people to me. But with your portfolio and a focus on sort of like telling your story, you're able to really, really communicate what makes you unique and different. And so obviously you will talk about your education, the places you've worked at, but it's a place for you to talk about your passions and your hobbies. If you're making a career transition, own that part of your story and talk about it as well. And so if, for example, you've been doing some graphic design, or you've been doing marketing, or you've been doing something even outside of tech in general, and you're making a transition to design or to product design, own that part of your story and so like craft something that pushes you in the best possible way. Last but obviously not the least is a way for you to be contacted. I have gone through a number of portfolios where people just don't do this. So essentially include being able to reach out to whether it's LinkedIn, your email, Twitter. Someone might come across a project you've worked on, maybe a big fan of it, but might just know how to contact you. Let's switch over to projects. With projects, I always emphasize quantity over quality, and you want to aim for a high signal to noise ratio. And what this really means is you don't want to have too many projects where it becomes very, very hard for anyone to get a sense of what's good work or what's not. So if you've done a bunch of things, spend some time and decide on what showcases my abilities in the best possible way, and where can I do a really good job at selling myself, and focus on those projects. 2 to 3 projects, in my opinion, go a long way. And if you can sort of just do great case studies for 2 to 3 projects, it more than does the job of showing that you have specific skills. Anybody going through a portfolio with 3 projects can immediately get a sense of your ability to design, do research, and stuff like that. Now, with projects themselves, when we are sort of developing case studies for these projects, what is important to communicate or include? I think context, this is something I feel like, we all tend to ignore a bit. Talk about when you worked on the project, what year, what was the size of the team you worked with the team? What was the scope? Did you just, work on, for example, visual design, or did you own the project end to end? What industry? These are like literally like, one-liners, or even like one word sometimes. But it helps the person looking at portfolio get a very good sense of, okay, this is when this happened, this is when this person worked on it. And that's very useful information. Next piece is obviously you want to talk about the problem you're trying to solve, but you need to think of it as, telling a story. On some level, we are storytellers as designers, and that's the idea of the problem piece. You want to frame it in a way that the person reading the problem understands the tension you had to experience when working on that particular project. This is an important one. Focus on what's important or what's most important. You don't have to include every single step. If you, for example, did research, obviously to do research, you would need to figure out what you're trying to understand, come up with questions, find people you want to talk to, interview them or talk to them, do some analysis, come up with your insights. Including all of those steps makes your portfolio piece or a case study very overwhelming and hard to internalize or read. Find ways to summarize that. You could create like a very simple visual, top insights, and just do bullet points of your process. And anybody going through, I guess, a very high-level overview of what went into research versus explaining step by step everything you've done. I know there's this intent to show that you actually did the work, but it's sometimes counterintuitive because you end up overwhelming the person going through a portfolio. And it's also always known that, people are just starting out tend to feel like they need to communicate everything. And so it's possible to come off as somebody who's just, started out. But by just focusing on what's important, people are able to get it. Communicate outcomes. This is very difficult if you're working, for example, on contract type jobs, or it's like a side project. But it's difficult if you think of outcomes as, okay, I increased conversion by X%, or I made X amount of money for the business. Yes, a lot of recruiters want to see that. A lot of companies are interested in that. But there are ways to communicate outcomes that don't necessarily relate to that. An outcome can be as simple as, I tested this prototype with 5 different people, and here are the interesting things I learned, which would inform the next version of this idea I'm working on. You've shown that you've done the work, and you've tried to come up with a few outcomes. It's easy to think of outcomes as impact, and in most cases it is, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Finally, share your learnings, reflect on the entire process and talk about what you could have done better. It's one way to show that you have a growth mindset. It's one way to show that you've thought about the areas of your projects that could be better. It's one way to show that you're also someone looking to continuously improve the things you're working on. So at the end of a case, so just learnings or things I learned from this, and just write a few sentences, 2 or 3 learnings, it goes a long way. Like I would scroll down to the bottom of my portfolio and just spend some time reading that. And it gives me a sense of, okay, this is the kind of person this person is. So do that. Now, remember, people scan. People don't read stuff line by line. And so obviously you would not want to write one-liners, you would want to write sentences, but you also don't want to overwhelm the person. So if I want to spend, 10 minutes on a particular portfolio, I believe it is recorded, Oreoluwa. If I want to spend, 10 minutes looking at a portfolio, I'm obviously not going to read each sentence. With regards to sources of projects, I'm just putting this out there in case, we're looking to still work on our portfolios. Obviously, your SG projects go a long way. If you have a job, that's one place to get projects from. If you're doing contract jobs, that's one place to get projects from as well. But you could also do side projects. Maybe there's this interesting idea you have. Spend some time exploring that. It's a side project you've worked on. It can be included in your portfolio. I know the tricky part is, okay, if I did not actually ship it, how does that show that, I can actually work in an environment and collaborate? I don't think you always need to do that with a portfolio piece. You can have one project that does that, but another does not necessarily have to do that. And obviously find opportunities to collaborate. Maybe you have a developer friend who's good at building stuff. Collaborate with him, do the design piece of a particular project, and it could go into your portfolio. So these are sort of pieces we can think about when we think about portfolios and how to structure your case studies. I hope to be able to walk you guys through a few examples of these when we jump into live portfolio review. For writing, I think the one thing I'll just talk about really is write about what you're passionate about. With writing, for me personally, I tend to feel oh, there's nothing new to write about. People have written about everything. I don't think that's true. And even though I know that that's not true, I still struggle with it sometimes. You have gone through STU10, you have made a transition from one career to design. There's someone today who's looking to that as well, who's looking to understand what that experience was like, who's looking to understand the challenges. So writing about your time going through STU10 or your career transition is something somebody else will find useful or valuable. And so it's stuff you can write about. If you're taking a specific course, write about your learnings. So these are sort of topic ideas. You don't always have to write to display knowledge. While you can do that, you can write to reflect. Now, I struggle to write, so there's this hack I was going to share with people. It's a bit long-winded, but it helps me cut the steps really, really short. So if I was going to write about, for example, this presentation and it was going to be an article, I have my points, maybe a list of bullet points. I will record myself just talking about it, the way I'm giving this presentation. And what I'm just doing is recording myself doing this. I could record myself maybe on Zoom or using myself audio recording app. And I'm just recording myself talking to the points. Then I transcribe my recording. So I do this with Descript, it's an app, or I could use Otter, for example. Just transcribe. Obviously, what you transcribe will be messy. You might spend some time just editing a bit. Take that transcription, throw it into Notion AI or ChatGPT and tell it to format it for you. And you literally have a V1 of your article. And that can be a kickoff point for the actual piece you're trying to write. So it's just something I've tried personally to help me essentially shorten the process and remove some friction. And I just wanted to share with everyone. Very related to portfolios in general, but stuff that might be useful regardless. With tools, so you know what you're going to put into your portfolio. You spend some time thinking about your story. You have a bunch of projects. maybe you have a few articles as well, and you're thinking, okay, how do I build a portfolio? I think there are multiple ways to go about doing this. You could build a portfolio with Figma. A simple Figma prototype it can be a portfolio. It's a tool you're familiar with. We use it for designing every time. We understand its functionalities, and that can be a good place to start. Obviously, Figma prototypes are not responsive, but I don't think that's as big a risk. And the reason why I say that is because most people reviewing portfolios are doing so at work or on a PC, and so it's usually fine. And so essentially, spend some time. You could do this in Figma. Notion is another place to essentially build a portfolio. I actually have an example of this. With Notion, it's usually very text-based. You can obviously put in pictures and all of that, but it works. You could obviously choose to write your own code and deploy it. But if you use website builders like Webflow, it's drag and drop. It's usually fast. There are templates. Maybe you need to have some understanding of HTML and CSS, but it's not too hard to pick up. And then obviously there's Framer as well. The recently launched Framer sites, also drag and drop. Super easy to launch something on there. And fun fact, it integrates super nicely with Figma as well. So I know it's usually very overwhelming or daunting for you to think about where to build your portfolio, but there are a number of tools out there that help you simplify that process. There are templates as well from Webflow and Framer, and these are tools you can leverage to build a portfolio. So we've talked about portfolios almost on a theoretical level, and I want to spend some time, walking you guys through some portfolios that are great. Fun fact, most of these portfolios, I think 3 out of 4 of them are by Nigerian designers that I really, really like and admire their work. So some of these portfolios were built in Notion, some of them were built in Figma, some of them were built in Webflow, and obviously there was one that was HTML and CSS. And the reason why I've chosen all of these portfolios is to drive home the point that it's less about the tool and more about the content of your portfolio. So I'll just do a quick walkthrough of each of these portfolios, and I will try to call out a few of the things I've talked about so far. So this is a portfolio by an amazing designer called Lola. She, I think, used to work at Paystack. I don't know her personally, but I was just looking up some portfolios, and I came across hers, and it was really good. This portfolio was built in Webflow. I don't know for a fact if it's a template or she built it from the ground up, but this essentially just tells you that you can go into Webflow and start to examine it. I would imagine Webflow is not unfamiliar to everyone on this call, but I think just seeing somebody use it helps drive on that point. I mean, she kicks off her portfolio by talking about what she does in a interesting way. Talks about herself, essentially what I've talked about, which is selling yourself and your story. Now, it's easy to be like, oh, but she's been working for 6 years and she's done a bunch of interesting things. That's why she's able to do this. I don't think that's always true. It's usually about just figuring out what's important and what's the best way to position myself. Even if you've just worked at one place or you have just 1 year of experience, so you've just gone through Q10, there is a way to frame the about section of your profile in a way that's still engaging. You want to focus on, for example, passion, the fact that you're hungry to learn, the fact that you have a growth mindset. These are ways to showcase who you are and your personality as well. And you can obviously go to read more about her. She has her projects in here, emphasis on selected, and I think they are just for projects. Once again, this is what I was talking about. I'm pretty sure she's probably worked on a lot more products or a lot more projects, but she's chosen to focus on just 4. Obviously, some of this is a work at Paystack. This is work with Flick. And then this is something she's done with Scan and Pull Up. I don't know most of these companies. I think I know Paystack, but I'm still keen to explore some of these items. So I'm just going to dive into the Flick one. And in here, obviously, it's just a high level view. She provides context. You can immediately see when she worked on this, the role she played, and the industry. You can choose, for example, include people you collaborated with. But context goes a long way. I instantly get a sense of, okay, the kinds of things she did. And I know what to look out for while going through that portfolio. For example, she did not talk about user research. So I want to maybe have expectations of seeing a lot of user research elements in there. So this is a way for you to communicate, the areas you worked on while working on a specific project. Um, Talks about, the company a bit. This is also good to provide context. Okay, what's this company? What's Fleek? I've never heard of them before. And so this just gives me a high level overview of what Fleek is and what she sort of did with them. She has a video up here. It doesn't exactly have to be video created by her. She will probably grab this video from, Fleek's website as a way to communicate Fleek. So this can be a way for you to, for example, communicate. If you did a redesign of a particular brand, go to their website, grab a video or something that explains them and use it. You can, obviously she's positioned as introducing Fleek, and anybody who goes through this just understands that, okay, it's a way for her to communicate what Fleek is about. And then, she goes into the work, talks a bit about it. One thing you would see is she doesn't really focus on process. She just talks about what she's done, describes it very quickly. What she's done, describes it very quickly. What she's done, describes it very quickly. You don't have to always follow this pattern. You can choose to, go a bit deeper and explain the step-by-step specific problems you're looking to solve. But, she's just, used this as a way to very quickly surface that she's actually worked on stuff. And I think we can spend some time going to go over and about her page, pictures of herself, talks about what she cares about, a bunch of more pictures, communicates her experience, her education, where she's been featured in, and obviously her story. Now, it's possible that, you go away from this thinking that, okay, she has so much experience and that's why she's able to do it, but I don't think that's what we want to focus on. Focus more on the approach versus, the actual content in here. She shares her story more than meets the eye. You can start to get a sense of her personality as well, just by sort of looking through this. So this is a portfolio built in Webflow. I will show you one built in Notion. This is a designer based in Canada. I don't know her personally. I wasn't able to find a Notion portfolio by a Nigerian designer. I don't know if we hate Notion as a culture, but in here, you can very quickly see, she gives a high-level overview about herself, a way for you to contact her. You can immediately see her case studies, and you can open them up. It loads, there is some context. You can sort of see date, role, constraints, the platform she worked on, the tools she used. And then, there's a very high-level overview of what's covered, and you can read through it. So this is a portfolio done completely in Notion. And it's very, very informative. I get a sense of the things she worked on. I can sort of see user stories, for example. I can see wireframes. I can sort of see what she's trying to achieve with typeface, search function to build or not build a database. So this is all in Notion and it does a lot. So it's easy to feel like, oh, with Notion, I cannot do as much as I would love to. That's not true. Notion is, one way for you to approach this. And she also did something interesting where it's like, okay, why did I build my UX portfolio on Notion? Once again, it's a story, it's a writing she's included, but it's also a way to showcase herself and talk about her rationale. So she's treated her portfolio as a writing project, which is another idea. Like, okay, how I built my portfolio. Very simple write-up. You control the entire story. It's a way for you to showcase yourself and your personality a bit more. In here, you obviously have a way to sort of look at her and about her. There's a risk with Notion though, like someone who's not very familiar with Notion as a platform may struggle to navigate around that. If you are working in tech and you're applying to a lot of tech companies, it's safe to assume that people are familiar with Notion, but I just wanted to surface that as a risk. Someone who's never used Notion before might find it a bit strange or overwhelming, but Notion is a very successful product. A lot of people use Notion for work. And so going through a portfolio built in Notion might not be that big of a struggle, but it's just important to just remember that as a risk if you choose to go down the Notion route. This is a portfolio built in Figma. Dima is a designer I know personally. We're friends. She's amazing. She works with Shopify. And this is a portfolio. It was done with Figma. And because it was done in Figma, it doesn't mean it doesn't look great. It's a portfolio I really like. She talks about who she is. You can see her personality come through. She uses the word, she's a star girl. Provides a high level overview of who she is. Talks about the different places she's worked at. And you can see that she has just 3 projects. This is another thing I was talking about, quantity over quality. Quality over quantity. These are sort of her portfolios. One interesting thing I like that she's done is she doesn't describe her portfolio items as projects. She talks about it from the job they're trying to do with that particular project. So for this project, maybe she built like a dashboard or something like that, but she's described it as improving how surveillance and disease detection is being done in Africa. And so if I'm looking at this, I'm not looking at, oh, like a dashboard for surveillance and disease detection. This has, this has framed things in a very interesting way. Now I'm engaged, I'm interested. I want to like, see how should I approach, improving surveillance and disease detection. So another pro tip, frame your portfolios not as like projects, but as so like, the thing you're trying to achieve. I believe a lot of our case studies are probably protected in the sense that you can necessarily view them. And there's nothing wrong with that as well. If somebody is interested enough, they might just like request a portfolio. And I think her portfolio is hosted on Google, if I'm not mistaken. And so requesting access is as easy as just clicking this button. And so if, for example, you don't want to, maybe you find it overwhelming to create everything in Figma, and it's easier for it to be like a Google Doc, you could do that and link it here. Obviously, it introduces a bit more friction for the person reviewing the portfolio, but it's a way for you to get started. So maybe, you create a very high level overview of the project in here, and then you immediately just, have people access the doc. But if you want to go all the way, you can, have your entire story in here in Figma as well. She provides a sense of people she collaborated with, talked about her key responsibilities. Once again, context. Even though the full project is not here, I can see some screenshots and get a sense of, okay, this is what she worked on. Do you get? So this is a Figma prototype as a portfolio as well. I think one final one I'll go over is this portfolio by Isaac. Isaac is a designer I worked with for a bit. Amazing dude. I really, really love the work he does. And this was built with HTML, CSS, and all that jazz. I think they took about 6 months working on it. And it's pretty rad. So you have like all these crazy, so like weird stuff going on. You can click on work. There's some 3JS. There's some WebGL happening. What is immediately obvious when you look at this portfolio is it was designed to achieve a specific outcome. So Isaac does these types of projects, and he's trying to communicate that he's good at what he does. And so for him, the intent was to go that far. I don't think you have to do this. Obviously, if you want to, you need to understand that it's going to take you some time to get to this point, and you might have to even collaborate. I believe about 4 or 5 people worked on this portfolio. But you can still sort of, go in and see his work. So like see all the different projects he's worked on. You can expand it and sort of like see images and scroll through it. You can go back to the homepage and read a bit about himself and sort of like see what he cares about. The key themes still come across. You still sort of like get a sense of who he is, his personality, and you can still see his projects. But this is something that was built purely from the ground up and over a long period of time. So I think I've shown you portfolios across the spectrum, from the ones built with Webflow, Notion, with Figma, or even so like built from the ground up. And then there's also like drive home the point that your portfolio can be anything really. It's less about the tool, it's more about the content and making the very best of a specific tool you're trying to adopt. I'll wrap up this session with a few tips about portfolios. Always find opportunities to differentiate. Find projects by looking at side projects or collaborating with people. Write first, because content is king. It's easy to sort of like get lost in designing the portfolio and making it look nice and focusing on the visuals. But just write. Ignore everything else and focus on writing. Place your strengths. If you're not good at motion design, for example, it doesn't make sense for you to want to create a portfolio where motion is such a huge part of it. If you're not good with colors, for example, just do something that's black and white and include a picture of yourself. Play to your strengths is super, super crucial. If you can embed some analytics, it's obviously harder to do this with Notion and Figma. But if you're using Webflow or Figma, it's as simple as just pasting a link. I have used Hotjar in the past. Hotjar is a tool that allows you watch recordings of people who have used your site and so like see heat maps. Plugging it in can just help you get a sense of what people are paying attention to, what types of projects you've put up there interest people, where people bounce in your portfolio. I put just opening your portfolio and consistently closing it. analytics is one way for you to do that. And something I've done a lot is if I'm looking to apply for jobs, I go to these companies that I would find interesting, find the designers working at those companies and look at their portfolios. It's one way for me to get a sense of the quality bar for that particular company, understand what that company values in designers, understand the best way to position myself as well. So obviously it's not practical for you to rethink your portfolio for every single place you're applying to. I mean, you could do if you're using Figma because it's probably easier to put together. But just looking at a cross section of companies, you're able to get a high level sense of the different things people value. That could potentially help with the kinds of projects you choose to sort of select. Maybe you're applying to companies where they value a lot of research. Okay, you want to think about a project where you feel like you did good research and focus on that or hone in on that. So this is one hack I have tried a few times and it's been pretty productive. I feel like this is essentially the end of my presentation. I did talk for a bit, but I think more crucially, I hope I was able to share a thing or two about portfolios and how to approach it. I'm sure you all have a bunch of questions, so I was hoping we could spend the next 15 minutes just essentially taking questions from everyone. Please share your questions in the chat. I was meant to share a link so people add in questions and vote on them. I completely forgot to do that, so my bad. And so please, if you have questions, throw it in the chat. I will just be going through those questions and answering the ones I can. So let's do that for the next 15 minutes. Forever, I don't know if people want to sort of come up and talk and if it's something we want to do. But I'm happy to also listen to people, talk about the questions they have and I can answer. So whichever way we want to approach this, I'm super fine with that.
Okay, thank you very much, Hakeeb. So definitely we can have people that have questions come up and talk. So I'll just set it on my end so that anyone can unmute themselves.
All right, I'm just going to stop sharing while we jump into the Q&A piece. And if you're feeling shy, you can also just leave your questions in the chat. Yes, I can provide links to the portfolios I have shared. I will share them with Forever. I think she can circulate them with everyone on the call. So Ifeanyi has a question. When is the right time to create a portfolio? This is a question that's obviously very, very context dependent. So if you're obviously employed as a designer, principle, your portfolio is work in progress. Ensure you always have one and you're always updating it. So let's assume you have one, you've not been updating it. When is the right time to approach that? Or you don't have one, you want to create one. When is the right time to approach that? So I'm going to answer the question from that perspective. So if you're employed, obviously, you want to have your portfolio while you actually work on projects. And the reason why I say this is because when you work on projects, details are still very fresh and you can tell a more compelling story. Or you want to essentially just take all of the important notes and keep all of the important artifacts. So when you ever have to apply, when you ever want to create your portfolio, you have all of the details you need. But in terms of sort of when it's best to do it, literally when you work on projects. Now, say you've not done that, it's healthy if you plan on transitioning to a new job, give yourself time. Like I said, portfolios tend to take some time. So give yourself some time, maybe, I don't know, a month, 5 to 6 weeks. You can start to create your portfolios way before that because you want to create it first and get feedback from people, maybe even make some changes before you start to push it out. What's definitely unhealthy to do is create a portfolio 2 days before you want to apply for a gig. I don't think you do the very best job. Can we include UI designs in our portfolios or just case studies? Very tricky one. I think it's always better to have case studies because that showcases that you've actually worked on a project. You can include UI designs, but don't have your portfolio made up of only UI designs. And if you're going to include UI designs, make it a story as well. So if, for example, you start to redesign specific experiences, document what you feel about the experiences you want to change. Communicate the intent behind your decisions, even with these UI designs. So don't just slap on a bunch of screenshots. Go a step further and tell a story, even though it's just a UI design. I feel like that's how to approach UI designs if you need to have them in your case studies. I am not very familiar with Google Sites, and so I don't know what the experience of hosting portfolios on there are like. And so I'm not, the best person to answer that question, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. For me, I did not mention Behance. This is actually not true. You can have your portfolios on Behance, but the thing with Behance really is it's a lot tougher for you to showcase your personality or even have sort of your writings on there. And so one thing you can do is, maybe have specific case studies in Behance, yeah? And then maybe have just a simple one pager with a high level overview of each project. And if someone then taps on it, it takes them to the Behance case study. And so you have a front-facing site that you've designed to showcase who you are, talks about your story, and then you can link to specific Behance projects. That can be another way to approach it. But yeah, Behance works as well. Can I help reviewing a portfolio? I can, probably in an async fashion. I don't know if I'll be able to do it right away, but if you shoot me a link, I might be able to, give you a pointer or two about your portfolio, Chris. All right, as a designer without a lot of experience, how can I make my portfolio really stand out in a competitive environment? Very, very good question. I think, the real problem here is not about the portfolio standing out. So I guess two things. There is an assumption embedded in that question that you need to have a lot of experience for your portfolios to stand out, and I don't think that's always true. Like I said, portfolio is essentially a collection of your stories, your projects, and your writings, and so start with that. So, for example, about you, obviously you own that. Look at ways for you to tell your story in a way that's extremely engaging. If you're not writing and there are topics you feel are interesting, write about them. And for projects, if you don't have any projects, find side projects, find people to collaborate with, have all of those pieces, and you immediately start to have a portfolio that stands out. But without having all of those sort of foundational elements and focus on the portfolio itself, you're not necessarily in the best place to do a good job. And so my advice generally is focus on the foundational elements that make up a portfolio, do a great job with that. And the path to a great portfolio becomes a lot, clearer. Zainab, yes, I did see your message on LinkedIn. I plan to respond. I'll get to that soon enough. My bad for not necessarily responding. Adiza, how do you decide which projects to include in your portfolio? Very amazing question. A few things to think about. One is, the kinds of companies you would like to apply to. Go check them out. See the portfolios or kinds of projects people have worked on. And let that sort of almost be a basis for figuring out what works. The kinds of roles you're applying to. If you're applying to an organization, for example, where they value visual design, you want to showcase that ability in your portfolio. If you're applying to organizations where they value, for example, research, you want to showcase that skill set in your portfolio as well. So it's less about, there's a baseline. Obviously, you want to ensure that you have quality projects in there, but you can be more strategic in terms of, where do I see myself going? What kind of place am I applying to? And let that sort of guide the choices you make. More than anything else, look through the list of projects you have and focus on the ones that showcase your abilities in the best possible way. Quality wants to gain over quantity. When you say writing, do you mean we should post content in our portfolio? I did say writing a couple of times. So when I say your writings, I mean like articles or blog posts. You can write them up on Medium, have a page with links to them, and people can sort of click on them and then go to those pages. That's what I mean by writings. You don't necessarily have to have a blog post section. And then when I said write first, I actually meant your case study. Write out your case study first, the content pieces before focusing on designing the case study page. That's what I mean. So I hope that clarifies things. How can one convert just one case study into the portfolio? Emmanuel, I'm not sure I really understand the question. If you can provide some additional context, that would be very helpful. Chris, can I share my email? Unfortunately, I cannot do that. You can still like reach me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. Send me a DM. Happy to have conversations on there. Which platform is the best to host my portfolio from your point of view? So I'm assuming with this question, you are implying that you want to build your portfolio with, I don't know, HTML and CSS. First point is, I don't think it really matters. The person looking at your portfolio is not going to care about where it's hosted. What you want to ensure is that wherever you're hosting it, you're communicating in the best possible way. But if you're writing HTML and CSS, I think I've used just a simple, so like a GitHub page, and then I routed my email address to that. With no code, Figma works, Webflow works. Essentially, what makes you, do a good job. If you're not comfortable with Figma, go for it. If you're not comfortable with Webflow, go for it. I think more than anything else, I have shown that you can do an amazing job, irrespective of the platform you choose to adopt. And I can tell you with confidence, people use anything and everything. The crucial thing is, you're focusing on your story, showing your personality, and showing your projects. I don't know if there are any more questions. I think we have like 2-3 minutes, so I can take a few more. This was rapid fire. I liked it. Toby, okay, yeah, go ahead, please.
Hello, Hakeeb. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Afternoon. So much for the insights. You've said a lot, fantastic responses, but I just have one thing. It's evident that you're a busy person, and I'm sure everybody would like to know the best time to text you, because I'm the type of person that I like to, when I'm eager to seek for knowledge, I like to be responded to on that same energy. So if I know, okay, Hakeeb is good for my text, so and so time, I text you at that interval and not a second sooner or a second after, because I'm old enough to know that and wise enough to know that people value their time way more than money these days. So when is it best to text you? Because I'm a type of person, no matter the age, I want to learn. And I'm sure this question hopefully is valid to everyone else. So when can we text you, and what are the platforms that's best to text you on? Thank you so much.
Cool, Toby. First of all, thank you so much for the kind words. I think first, very similar to you, also value a growth mindset, looking for opportunities to learn. I think there's 67 people on this call, and I think I'll be lying if I said I could respond to 67 messages honestly. It's probably going to be overwhelming for me to have direct relationships with everybody. With that being said, just send me a DM on Twitter. I may not respond right away or on that same day, but I would, find time to respond. Now, I might not necessarily be able to have a conversation right away. And so if you can help by just, providing a very high level overview of what you're looking to talk about or understand, as soon as I have some time, I would, respond to those questions. I think you can also mention that you're from student. I think that gives you plus points. And that helps me connect the dots. So that's the best I can commit to, honestly, because if I said anything else, it'd probably be a lie. But yeah, I completely acknowledge and respect where that's coming from. But that's how I'll suggest you approach it. For someone who's not currently working as a product designer, how do I go about creating a portfolio? Okay, so Victoria, I'm not sure whether working as a product designer is because you're still undergoing that process of transitioning, or you're still learning. But I think it's very simple. It's very similar to a question I've answered before. Focus on the elements that would actually go into the portfolio instead of the portfolio, not just the portfolio itself. And what that looks like is, what's your story? What am I trying to communicate? Do I have projects I want to write about? If I don't have, okay, how can I get projects I can work on? Who can I collaborate with? What projects can I take on? What can I write about that people also value and appreciate? Do all of that, and I think the path to your portfolio becomes a bit more obvious. You said we should look up the portfolio of people working in the company. Take for instance, majority of us we are applying as interns. meaning we can't really decide what companies to apply to. How do we then decide what project to put in our portfolio? Very amazing question, Dami. I don't think the intent is to try to create projects like for like with these companies. Is to get a sense of what they value and the bar for quality and how to position yourself. So, like you said, obviously, if you're applying as an intern, it's a lot more difficult, and I completely acknowledge that. But the key thing is, if, for example, you see companies and you see portfolios, and this person, for example, worked on a redesign of another brand or a redesign of another sort of like platform, or maybe this person took a stab at improving a Spotify app. Okay, and it works at this company. It starts to give you, okay, maybe I could do that as well. So it's more about like generating ideas for yourself and looking to the sources of inspiration. You would have to like take in all of that information and then look at your portfolios and see what is a better fit versus trying to match like for like. I don't know if I did a good job at answering that question, but that's sort of like how I think about it. Timidope, I will take a look and respond. But I think we are out of time. It's 4-1 already. Honestly, it was amazing talking to you guys. Thank you so much for the questions. My Twitter handle is, I'm just going to share that on this chat. Yeah, that's it. So they can reach out to me on Twitter as well. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It was lovely meeting everybody and taking questions from you. But yeah, that's it from me. Forever, over back to you.
Thank you very much, Hakeeb. Thank you so much for that session. I think it was wonderful. I think I speak for everyone here when I say it was really insightful. I'm not even a designer, and I know that I was able to pick a lot of things that I can apply in my, role at STU10 as well. So thank you very much again, Hakeeb. And I would like for us to all drop in the chat box a thank you for Hakeeb. Yeah, just to show that we appreciate his time. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining this first session. I would trust that we're all going to be joining the second session by 4 p.m. today by Samuel Assisi, where he'll be talking on what hiring managers look for in a portfolio. So I'll trust I'll see us by that time. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Hakeeb. All right, let's enjoy the rest of our day. Bye, everyone.